Okay, in this video, we're going to look at how to set up the Aembit access token to access the Aembit MCP server in your tenant. So in a previous video, we had looked at the other way to do this, and that requires going to 𝐀𝐻𝐿𝐿, going to the user, then to the profile, generating a token, and then copying that. But this approach is better because this is kind of long-lived, and I'll show you how to do that right now. All right, so let's look at the policy and talk about what you need to set up. First, you need to set up the credential provider, and the credential provider will use the credential type as Aembit access token, and that's really all you need to do here. And then when I click verify, you can see that it's verified fine. The next thing you do is you set up the server workload to be your Aembit MCP server. So you can get that information from here. So we'll go back to profile. This is your MCP server URL. So we'll copy this. We'll have to modify it slightly, but this is the one you want to just copy. And then going back to the policy. So you copy the host here. You don't need the HTTPS or anything after. You change the authentication protocol to MCP. You add the port as 443, and then you complete it by doing the URL path. So you do the /MCP, and then the rest of it will remain the same, and you say save. And then finally, you create a client workload, and the client workload, we're gonna do a /* for the redirect URI. So this is https://claude.ai/*. This /* is important because this will work for both the Claude web and the Claude app. And then the next thing you do is you enable enforce SSO and pick the IDP that you're using. I have a couple different IDPs, but I'm going to use auth0. And if you don't have an IDP configured, you can go ahead and configure it under administrators and then identity providers. You can see I have Okta SSO and auth0. They're both using SAML, so I'm just going to use the auth0 one. So now let's switch over to Claude and see this in action. All right, in Claude, I added a custom connector, and the custom connector is the full URL for my MCP server. When I say connect, it's going to redirect me to auth0. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. It's going to tell me to switch back. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and here you can see that my Aembit MCP server is connected. And if I click configure, I can see the tools. So get audit logs, get audit events, get workload events. So I'm going to just go and issue a command to get me the last couple audit logs. And I'm going to say, what did Azure do the last time he logged into his Aembit tenant? So this is going to load one of the tools, in this case, the get audit logs tool, and it's going to go ahead and make the call. All right, it tells me what I did just today. I generated the API access token that you saw earlier in the video. So that's really it. All right, once you have this set up, this is going to be accessible the whole time. You really don't have to make any more modifications or go and generate a short-lived token. And that's it. All right, thank you.